Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ni hao, wo chao, Nurul FATEHAH binti Ahmad, or hi, my name is Nurul FATEHAH binti Ahmad from JBA 1193A. Today, I would like to share some knowledge about history of China. So let's start. The first real emperor of ancient China was Qin Shi Huang, born Yunzhen in 259 BC. He united the different kingdoms in 229 BC and ruled them all. He established a standard writing system, money, wealth, and measures. He built roads and erected beautiful palaces in the capital Shan. The empire he forged out turned out to be so strong. It has survived for thousands of years and is even named for him. The word China comes from one of his names, Jan. Of course, that makes it sound like he was benevolent and enlightened, but he wasn't, definitely not by modern standards. He didn't like scholars and books, burying some scholars alive and burning many books, including those by Confucius. He thought education for the common people took time away from growing crops. Emperor Jin was so cruel that he lived in fear that he would be harmed in retaliation. It said he rarely slept in the same palace 2 nights in a row. He also sent decoys who resembled him to meeting where his life might be endangered. He died in 210 BC after drinking a potion he thought would give him eternal life. One of his most lasting achievement was the famous Great Wall of China. Around the year 220 BC, Emperor Qin began the huge undertaking of connecting many different walls around China, some that were as old as 400 BC, and forging one enormous wall to keep out invaders built entirely by hand. The Great Wall, snake-up mountain, ranged down into valley and across the desert of northern China. Stretching close to 4,300 miles, it is about 25 feet high and 15 to 30 feet wide. In addition, to defend the wall provided a way to transport men and supplies throughout China and to communicate with smoke sickness. More than 2,000 years later, it continues to be one of the wonders of the world. After Emperor Qin died, Liubong became the first emperor of Han Dynasty. Under the Han, China was no longer isolated. It was during this time the Silk Road was established, which was a network trader routes between China and ancient Western land. China traded the silk and spices with the people India, Persia, Arabia, North Africa, and even Europe. The nomadic traders who crossed the Silk Road to the dangerous tribe, facing bandit, harsh climates, and rough terrain. But eventually, Chinese goods found their way to associate with ancient past, but to cities as far as Rome. The Forbidden City is another amazing sight in China, often associated with ancient past, but compared to the Great Wall and terracotta soldiers, it is positively modern, only 600 years old. It was home to emperors during Ming and Qing dynasty. Construction began on the palace in 1406 and millions of workers labored to go over 14 years when the Forbidden City was complete. A 26-foot wall and a 20-foot moat kept people out. For 500 years, most people were forbidden to enter that 24 emperors called home. Hence the name with the Forbidden City with 900 rooms and 800 buildings. It is the world's largest palace complex. In 1949, it was open to all citizens in China and is now a museum.
你好，我的名字是 NURMILA AZREEN BINTI ABDUL LATIFF， 我的居证号是 2020990799. Okay, I continue with English. Today I'm gonna talk about China's attraction. China has long been considered as the essence of all that is enigmatic and exotic ever since the world first discovered it through the writings of traveler Marco Polo more than 700 years ago. Even after decades of economic development, this huge country retains its allure. The contrast between traditional Chinese practices and the new, ultra-modern state is striking. The preservation of key historic landmarks such as the Forbidden City and the Summer Palace in Beijing both of which evoke the days of China's emperors, demonstrates how much the Chinese value this culture. Okay, let's go to the best part, which is I would like to introduce China's attraction place. First of all, the Great Wall of China. The beautiful Great of China, also known as the Long Wall in Chinese, runs more than 6,000 kilometers from the fortifications of Shanhaiguan in the east of Jiaoyuguan in the west, passing through Hebei, Tianjin, Beijing, Inner Mongolia, Ningxia, and Gansu. The wall, which averaged 6 to 8 meters in height but may reach 16 meters in sections, and is broad enough for 5 horses or 10 soldiers to pass through, has multiple battlements and watchtowers. Some of the walls' earliest fortifications date back to the 7th century BC, with the best known sections being added around 210 BC when the various sections were brought together. Next is the Forbidden City and the Imperial Palace, Beijing. The Forbidden City, also known as the Imperial Palace, is China's largest and most important structure located in the center of Beijing and a must-see for anybody visiting the nation. Other notable sites in the neighborhood of the Imperial Palace include Tiananmen Square and the Temple of Heaven, which dates from the 15th century and is one of China's most prominent religious monuments. Last but not least, the Summer Palace in Beijing. The luxurious Imperial Summer Palace, Yehuan, a 15-kilometer drive from Beijing, is nested amid more than 700 acres of exquisite parkland and is one of China's most visited sites. The palace was established in 1153, but the Big Lake was added to the Imperial Gardens in the 14th century to beautify them. In conclusion, China as a tourist destination offers an almost endless amount of exploration opportunities due to its size. Whether you want to cruise through the Yangtze Gorges on a luxury cruise liner, visit a bustling city, or seek out the serenity of an ancient temple, this country is full of wonderful experiences and sightseeing opportunities. With our list of the best tourist attractions in China, you may find fascinating, unexpected, and exciting things to do.
Assalamualaikum. Ni hao. 我叫 Siti FADZIL. They are 8 economic performance of China, which is trade, firm, capital, people, technology, data, environment, and culture. First is trade. China became the largest exporter of goods in 2009 and largest trading nation in 2013. The share of global goods trade increased 1.9% in 2000 and 11.4% in 2017. Otherwise, China became 5th largest exporter of service with $227 billion of export in 2017, more than value in 2005. Next is firm. The number of operating firms in China around the world estimated increased 60% a year since 2010, from 10,167 to 33,163 in 2018. MGI found that China accounts for 10% of global firms in top 1 percentile of economic profit in 2014 to 2016. Another economic performance in China is their capital. China was the second largest source of outbound FDI in the world and the second largest recipients of outbound FDI from 2015 to 2017. Its financials still remain far from globalized. Only 2% of foreign ownership, 2% of bond market, and 6% of stock market in 2018. Number 4 is people. China is now the largest source of outbound students, which is 608,400 or 16 times more than in 2000. The tourist is 150 million trips in 2018, which is 14 times more than in 2000. Chinese immigrants account 2.8% of global total, and immigrants to China is 0.2% between 1990 and 2017. Other is technology. China R&D expenditure has soared, spent 9 billion in 2000 to 263 billion in 2018 in domestic R&D. However, China depends on imports in some core technology such as semiconductor and optical device. China technology import contract highly concentrate more than half of purchase of foreign R&D. Next is data. China is the world's largest population of internet users. More than 800 million people connect to the web. Despite of growth, the data is limited. 7 is environment impact. The country has invested in renewable energy and 127 billion in 2017, 45% of the global total and 3 times larger than US and European investment. China seeking to reduce its carbon intensity because of domestic issues about pollution. The median exposure of China Prime Minister, the air pollution was 3.7 times larger than average in 2016. Last but not least is the culture. China has heavily invested in building a global cultural presence. The number of Confucius institutions around the world expanded from 298 in 2010 and 548 in 2017. Financing a global entertainment industry had led more movies than shooting in China. 12% of the world's top 50 movies were shot in China in 2017 and up 2% in 2010.
In recent years, unemployment has been a significant social issue in China, both in terms of increased quantity and its uneven impact on different socio-economic regions. Because teenagers make up a sizable proportion of the population in China, the youth unemployment rate has an impact on the country's economic development. At the same time, many graduates are unable to compete for employment with top university graduates, and many are unwilling to accept low-quality, low-paying positions. The government has implemented various initiatives to combat it. The China government is committed to promoting employment and industrial structure by boosting the national economy, adjusting the economic structure, advancing political and economic system reform, balancing urban and rural economic development, and continuously expanding the social security system. All of these strategies are designed to maintain the unemployment rate constant and within society's reasonable range. Inflation is a frequent global, complicated and complete macroeconomic phenomenon. Since the 1978 reform and opening up, China's economic development has entered a sustained 30 years of fast growth with achievements that have drew international attention. However, inflation in China has met considerable obstacles during the process of economic reform and growth, and it is possible that it will continue to do so in the future. Changes in many variables are linked in China's economic development in the primary stage of socialism, the conversion era of economic system reform, so that China's inflation characteristics of multiple factors exist concurrently. China's GDP growth fell to 6.2% in the second quarter, the worst rate since 1992 when the country's economy was just getting started. However, the current dip was not as significant as the 6.4% GDP growth rate in the first quarter or the 6.6% rate for the whole year. The larger picture indicates that China's GDP has been declining for several years, and the current figure is simply the latest in a long line. While some analysts have linked the slow growth statistic to the ongoing trade spat. With the United States, experts from Wharton and Stanford University say it is not the main issue. Rather, China's economic difficulties are deeper, structural and long-term and have been developing for years. Overinvestment, high savings and moderate, if rising, consumer consumption, excessive debt and low industry output are among them.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is HAKIM, ABDUL RASHID. Today I will present about economy in China, the conclusion about China economic growth. So as a conclusion, every kingdom or government have their own challenge through their growth. The economic growth at China has been so far successfully navigated through the toughest global economic condition and other macroeconomic problems. China macroeconomic policies have been an officially success. The imbalances in its economy, such as growing consumer level and asset price inflation, are the symptom. But China faces the challenge in the medium term to address growing imbalance. China macroeconomic level will need to evolve to ensure the current growth trajectory is sustainable. This is recognized by Chinese policymakers. The period of the next 5-year plan may prove an essential one of the Chinese economy. With the rapid economic growth, China market has kept expanding and its contribution to the world economic growth is on the rise. In 2003, China accounted for over 1/3 of the increase in the world total import, contributing more to the growth of world trade. As an authoritative staff put it, China's rapid economic growth has provided opportunity for the world. The growth of China market creates new room for the growth of the world economy. With its effort for market-oriented reform, China is turning itself into a large emerging market in the world by integrating domestic and foreign trade and forming a combined national market that has become more orderly. In 2003, China sold 4.4 million motor vehicles, a year-on-year increase of 34%. That was an increase of over 1 million units in both the output and the sale of motor vehicles, something rarely seen in the history of the world automotive industry. Such a vigorous market demand not only supported the rapid development of China's economy, but also acted as an important driving force for economic growth of the world. In the second half of 20th century, the world economy entered an extraordinary period of rapid growth together with rapid advance in science and technology. Countries and regions have formed ever close trade and economic relations, and their economic interests are more entangled. Big nations are engaged in science and technology as the lead. They all give priority to stimulating the economy and striving for the most advantageous position in the world economy. By the end of the 1970s, China began to pursue a policy of reform and opening to the rest of the world. Since the Chinese economy has been growing rapidly, scoring great achievement. In 2004, China's gross domestic product amount to 136 and 515 billion yuan, or about 1.7 trillion US dollar. Moreover, China has embarked on a path of peaceful development. A more simple and clear explanation of this path in the present era, with peace and development as the main theme, China as a socialist country has decided to follow the path of seeking development while safeguarding world peace and contributing to the world peace through its own development. The path of peaceful development emphasizes both participation in economic globalization together with active effort to develop extensive and mutually beneficial cooperation. China's domestic reform is, from the very beginning, linked with the opening to the rest of the world. Economic globalization interweave an interest of all countries facilitate the global creation of production factor and make nations interdependent in their development process. Both participation in international economic and technical cooperation gives China access to the capital. Advanced technology. Both participation in international economic and technical cooperation gives China access to capital, advanced technology, managerial expertise and various professional people, which were unimaginable during its period of self-circulation.